Members of the Eastern Cape ANC have raised concerns about the party's handling of its elective conference. ANC Treasurer General Pule Mashatile has particularly left provincial officials frustrated. At least that's part of what's been reported. We're joined by ANC Spokesperson Pule Mabe. Mr. Mabe, good evening to you. Thanks for your time. Firstly, tell us about this complaint that has been laid by the Eastern Cape about the role played by the party's Treasurer General in its conferences last 2 weeks.
Evening, Kathy, and evening to your viewers. Of course, we have seen media reports suggesting that there could be a complaint laid by our structure in the Eastern Cape. Kathy, one would not have come into contact with such, but I can assure your viewers and everyone watching here that the National Executive Committee, including the SGO, led by the Treasurer General on behalf of the DSG, who because of ill health is unable to perform duties associated or linked to that office, did everything to make sure that the conference does not collapse. We were all there. It was us at head office, directed by the Treasurer General, who ensured that conference ultimately proceed. When conferences are convened, national office does not get involved or interested on who is supposed to emerge as a leader there. We allow our branches, our structures to participate in that democratic process. Our role really is to ensure that everyone who is in that conference feels that they could be able to express themselves, participate fully in the life of the African National Congress, regardless of which view they hold, and which is what we did here.
So, Mr. Mabe, are you saying that the ANC has not received any official complaint by the re-elected chair, that is Oscar Mabuyane, complaining about how things were handled at that conference?
Well, it is possible that, when letters are sent, they would, in the normal course, be sent to the Secretary General's office. I'm saying as a national spokesperson of the ANC, I'm not always aware or informed of correspondences that land at Lituli House. What I sought to do was to clarify your viewers that our role was a very proactive one, especially as head office led by the Treasurer General. Remember, when issues are raised around the TG in his performance of the role of the Secretary General, of one who leads the Secretary General's office, it's such that he is responsible to actually assign all of us, members of the National Executive Committee, when there are conferences, outline parameters through which we are expected to operate on terrains where we are sent to really fulfill such duties on behalf of the organization. Now, I can confirm to you that there was never a directive from the Treasurer General that would have suggested that we should act against the conference of the Eastern Cape sitting. So if there is a concern, well, up until one knows the detail, one would not really be able to say much. But it would be quite unfortunate.
But Mr. Mabe, I think ahead of this interview, you would have known what it is that we're going to be speaking about, and one would have thought that you may have checked with the relevant individuals about this complaint, about whether or not the complaint has in fact been made.
I did. I had advised your people in studio that I was not aware, and when they insisted, I thought that maybe let me not put down the interview. I told your people that I'm not aware of such. So if you are raising it here, it means there's a communication breakdown at newsroom.
So let's talk then about what happens from here on, because ultimately the allegation is that the Treasury General was effectively involved in behavior that may have sought to manipulate the outcomes of this conference in favor of those that we can now know were not the victors in this conference, that is Babalo Madikizela and those that he was campaigning alongside. Ultimately, it speaks to what is the factionalism that exists in the party, and there was talk about unity post that conference. I mean, do you think that that can be achieved when you do have members of the organization being aggrieved?
Well, as I said, that as at least as national spokesperson, I'm unaware of such. Beyond yourselves bringing this up, and why I agreed to come here was to really address what is the role of the National Executive Committee in the convening of national conferences, so that we could also dispel a myth or debar anything that seeks to suggest that it is possible for a national official to manipulate or sway a conference to produce outcomes that they might be in favor of. The Treasurer General of the ANC, or even in his capacity as one who now runs the SGO, has got no power nor authority to really direct or swindle what happens in a conference. Ultimately, a conference is attended by delegates, not by us. Members of the National Executive Committee. Can I please make my point? Because you asked questions, I'm now expected to answer. As I'm doing that, when you interject, I'm unable to then empower your viewers, not just you, your viewers, on how ANC processes work. The Treasurer General of the ANC is not involved in determining who becomes a delegate at conference. Delegate to ANC conferences are selected at BGMs. We now have got a new membership system, which is even difficult to manipulate. Once delegates are selected from those corrading BGMs, what SGO really does is audits. And then out of those audits, you produce what gets to be known as credentials. Those credentials affirm those that are duly accredited to participate as voting delegates in that conference. As to who they vote for instance, when audit is done by Lituli House, entrusted or empowered to perform such a responsibility, we are not really concerned on who these branches would have nominated. Supposedly, the TG wanted to sponsor a different view. The conference had said it produced another view. Why didn't it stop that conference? I think it's malicious. It's unfortunate that such views are being raised. We come out of the National Working Committee today. The Treasurer General was there giving us reports, organizational report on the work that they are doing. And we're quite happy with the unity that our national officials continue to display, even at times when unfounded allegations are raised out there. We must assure our structures that the systems we have, the membership systems we have now in the ANC, is such that we want to allow each and every member of the ANC an opportunity, a space, a platform to be able to raise their own views and participate in that democratic process of selecting who should be their leader. We know that, it's a match season. It's a match season now. Let me conclude. It's a match season. We are moving towards the national conference. All manner of machinations, accusations are going to be said. What is important for us is to make sure that we steer the course. We do not get really divided by the views that are being set out there.
All right.
We are focused on what needs to be done.
Let's leave it there for tonight. ANC Spokesperson Pule Mabe.